All right, cool. So with that, I'm going to jump in. We're going to be tight on time, so I'm going to ask you guys to hold questions to the end. Hopefully we have time. You'll notice down in the middle of your screen, there's a little hand. If you want to ask a question, feel free to hit that little hand button, and your screen will turn green like mine is. And there's also chat available in the bottom right. You can throw some chat questions, but otherwise, given the number of folks we've got, we'll try to stay on mute if we can, except for those folks that are speaking. And with that, I'm going to jump right into what we're going to be going over today. So we've now done 10 of these. I can't believe it. COVID has brought us together as a community, every month or so, and really thrilled to be able to do it on top of SignalWire. Today, we're doing something a little bit different, and I really want to shout out to Renee and the team at Gentreo for this idea on showcasing some of our founders that are led by women and minorities, and I'll talk about why that matters in a second, but I'm really thrilled to have everyone here with us. Going to do a quick pull down on Q3 update for you guys. We will not have that beautiful baritone Dr. Rawlinson talking to us about COVID, making you feel good about something that's awful. But needless to say, our outlook really hasn't changed on the main thing since we talked last. We are in the middle of a K-shaped recovery. It does look like COVID is going to get a lot worse over the next 2 quarters, and that's going to be tough. Good news is the U.S. election's behind us, and so that should make things easier on the capital markets, loosening up, and we're already seeing that with a number of portfolio companies closing financings that we'll talk about. The big risk we see in the medium term is that Tech Street and Main Street are pretty disconnected, and we do not think that that's sustainable long term. So those things will have to converge, and that'll make things tough for all businesses. And so our key mantra to you guys is 18 months of runway of cash is still a key metric to manage. And the other thing is, we're probably at the halfway mark of COVID. So, we're all a little bit tired. Please check in with each other, check in with us, check in with your teams, look after yourselves, because we probably got to, steel ourselves for another 12 months of toughness. And thanks to the SignalWire folks, we can hang out in the cafe here and chat anytime you want. The other thing I wanted to switch gears, because we normally talk about risks and things we're worried about and sharing our points of view. This resilience call, we have a lot of really great news to share with you. Diorama just launched on iOS, which I talked about. You can see in the screening room. Game Club is now on all platforms, now launched. A big marker for us in the portfolio in market 9th decimal is now at $100 million run rate business. So that's our first portfolio company that's now over $100 million run rate. SignalWire launched Cloud, so you can have all these amazing services you're looking at right now at a 90% reduction versus the cost of Twilio, and way more fun than Zoom. So check that out. The other thing I wanted to give you guys a thank you for all the works our founders are doing, but the Guru community has also kicked butt over the last quarter. And so this is just our top 10 on the leaderboard. A lot of names you recognize, including Dr. Rawlinson, Bob Posen, Bob Meese, Ko Kim. As a reminder, our founders are also gurus. But a special shout out this quarter to Kim Fennell. Not only did he source 4 new opportunities into Breakaway, he helped us diligence over 5 and is engaged with 4 of the companies, helping them with different issues that they're working on this quarter. So big shout out to Kim this quarter. So, and all of that leads us to some pretty awesome news. I kind of felt like a Biden pollster in Michigan the week before the election, looking at these numbers, because I was in Michigan the week before the election. But we've been going through these resilience calls, month after month, and some really tough things that we're all trying to deal with. But man, oh man, you guys really inspire us. Revenue, so over the last 12 months, is now dollar weighted, almost $23 million, up 100% from last year for the portfolio, and that's just exceptional performance given everything you're dealing with. Gross margins almost 70%. Cash runway 20 months across the portfolio, which is, again, I think well situated for what's in front of us. And then capital efficiency of growth, as you know, is a big metric for us. So companies that have awesome product market fit where the markets really pull them. And we're now seeing the capital efficiency of growth number at 1.5, which is exactly where we want to see it. So as a reminder, that means that the company consumes less than $1.50, both equity and debt, not raises, but consumes less than $1.50 for every dollar of revenue. And that basically means our founders also own a lot of their companies, if not the majority of their companies, which is something we think is important. Very early in the portfolio, the total value over invested is now 1.44. So really nice to see that metric going up early in the portfolio. Normally it goes down in venture portfolios as they go through the J curve. And then really cool news is 7 of our 16 companies have done up rounds since we invested, including companies that are bringing investors in like Sequoia and others, and no down rounds. So wow, just again, I'm that Biden pollster sitting in Michigan looking at the results going, that's pretty cool. One of the other things that's really cool, and this is not sort of by design, but 56% of our companies are led by women or minorities. And I think we can kind of look back on this experiment as to why that ended up, but it's just something that we also want to celebrate. And Renee said, we should have a showcase. And so damn it, we're going to have a showcase and celebrate some of our awesome companies. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Renee and she's going to lead us in a conversation about the power of mentorship with a dear friend, Shaan Pruden, who's joining us. So over to Renee and to Shaan.
Great. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, the idea was basically we're making money. We're women and minority-led companies. And let's give everybody a shout out, but also give everyone a platform so that we can help each other and continue to grow what's in front of us. So today we're really lucky. We've gotten to know Shaan over the past couple of weeks. And so Shaan was at Apple and is still at Apple, but in the early days. So she can tell you lots of the good stories about being with Steve Jobs, right? The first time and the second time, right? And so she's right now in charge of the worldwide developer relations. So everything you see on the Apple app platform and things like that goes through Shaan. And I think one of the proudest things that you've gotten to do is really help, with efforts around continuously reinventing Apple. And so some of the new programs are involving women, minorities, and that entrepreneurial spirit and invoking that. And so hopefully you'll talk with us more about that today. And you're also part of the Canada 100. So we have to give you a shout out for that because Chris is as well. So, but really excited to have you today. So thank you.
Yeah, it's lovely to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Okay, so I figured we'd start out with, 2020 is epic. None of us will ever forget 2020, but maybe what you can see is some companies have been successful. Chris just talked about that. Some leaders have been successful and some not. So what do you think has been driving some of that success that you've seen in this incredibly unpredictable time?
Yeah, I'm fortunate that I sit in a place where I see across a lot of industries and different kinds of apps that come to the store. The companies that have done well have pivoted to the opportunity and used it to be more strategic. Other folks haven't been so lucky because the basis of their whole business model is around getting people together or moving people around and things like that. So it's been a mixed bag, but I'd say the people who've been successful and figured out a way to manage through that, the thing that they all have in common is that they're really passionate about what they're doing. They've created this company or this solution because they had a personal experience that they felt there wasn't a good solution for, so they decided to go off and build something. So these are the kind of people that don't let roadblocks get in their way. This just inspires them and motivates them to do even more. And I think those are the kind of people who've really sort of picked up the challenge and run with it and have made their company successful and their products continue to thrive during these difficult times.
Oh, that's terrific. So, okay, so Apple, with your leadership, has introduced some fantastic new female and now programs for Black founders. Maybe you could tell everybody a little bit about these programs and then why they're critical to the Apple ecosystem. But then, as you've had to move more things online, what does that entail, involved, and how have you made it successful?
Yeah, I think diversity has always been important to Apple, and we've done a lot internally, especially in recent years. But we decided that it's so important that we needed to do something in the community as well. And the program I'm going to talk about is something particular to the developer community. And the reason we believe that is that the more voices you have at a table that come from disparate backgrounds, whether it's different cultures, different parts of the world, different age groups, different genders, everybody brings a different perspective to solving a problem, and you get way better decisions and much better products when you have those kinds of perspectives around the table. So we wanted to do something to support developers in particular that have faced some unique challenges in the technology industry. And we started with an entrepreneur camp for female-led companies and founders. And we've just finished our 6th cohort. The first 5 were all in person at Apple Park. There's about 12 companies that come from around the world, and they spend about 10 days to 2 weeks with us. And we really focus in on helping them make their products better. So we did our first one online. It just finished last week, and it was incredibly successful. We leveraged the learnings we had from our Worldwide Developer Conference that we did last June, which was all online as well. And it was effectively the same program. We weren't just all in the same room together, which we thought was going to make for less of a community feel, but it actually didn't harm that at all. That group has really become a very supportive network of one another. And what we do at the camp is really focus on your product. And it's a pretty straightforward framework, but not everyone in the technology industry does this. It's important to know who your product's for and keep really focused on that audience. What does it do and why is it special compared to other things that might be in the market? And so most of these companies are quite small and haven't been around very long. So we really help them hone their idea of their product and help them focus on making it great. So we have another entrepreneurial camp we've launched in June, and this is for Black founders and entrepreneurs, and the inaugural camp is going to be held in February. If you or someone you know could benefit from this program, please have them apply. Applications are open till the 20th November, and we will send around a URL later that takes you to the page where you can learn more about it and sign up.
That's great. So they can be early, late, like what's the right stage for us to be looking for folks?
Any stage, really. We've had people that have had products in the market for 10 years. And we've had like single proprietors come that, have only been on the App Store or aren't even on the App Store yet. So really at any point, but I think we're really focused around taking the app that you have and really honing it in on your audience and what makes it unique and adopting great technologies on our platform. And so the folks that would work with you are from evangelism and from my team, where we have sort of product manager industry experts to help you really make your product shine. At the end of the day, we believe that if you build a great product, it's almost like Field of Dreams. They will come. Obviously, there's more to it than that, but fundamentally, you have to have a great product or service to begin with, or you don't really have anything to be telling people about or getting them excited about. So that's where we focus our efforts at the camp.
And is it one and done, the camp, or you have ongoing relationships with them?
Yeah. So the cohort itself becomes a network that we started this 18 months ago. They're still very active with each other, but we also commit to supporting them. My team will maintain a relationship for at least a year with them. But if the product's really starting to gain steam, they'll be part of our ongoing portfolio. And we're always happy to talk to an alum if they have a question or an issue or they need some help.
Oh, that's fantastic. So like you said, I think Meryl's going to make sure you have the link there. If you want to refer folks and give them the information, we're going to post that. So, okay, so lots of us talk about innovation, right? Mm-hmm. And like, how do you get into great labs and things like that? But what does it mean to you? Because I'm sure over 30 years, you've seen incredible things, right? Ups and downs in the economy, new apps, new tools, all kinds of things. So what's it mean to you? And then, as we're thinking about new companies and everyone here, what are some lessons you can share with us?
Yeah, it always amuses me when usually big institutions will do a tour of Silicon Valley. This is before we were all in lockdown, a tour of innovation through Silicon Valley. And they come to our briefing center and they sit there and they think that we have some kind of checklist for innovation and we're going to share it with them. And then they're going to go off and be innovative. And that's not the way it works. In my humble opinion, innovation comes from, I mentioned this a little bit before, but your passion for what it is that you're trying to do. And so everybody that works at Apple is very passionate about what we're trying to do and solve problems for real people. And like I said, innovative companies, successful entrepreneurs are people that share that with us. They're really passionate about what they're doing. Usually, successful entrepreneurs that I talk to, 9 times out of 10 will tell me the same story. Something happened in their life, or they came across a particular situation, maybe a family member became ill, or they had a great idea and they thought, well, there must be an app for that. So they go and they look around for a solution, and there really isn't anything, or there isn't anything that they think really gets to it or solves it in the way they think it should be. And so most people would think, oh, well, that's too bad. There should, it would be nice if somebody did that. But crazy people like you, entrepreneurs, think, I'm going to go build it, even though you kind of don't really know what that means. But that doesn't stop you. You have that passion, you've got that drive, you end up kind of collecting a bunch of other people that are passionate with you and building an organization that's going to go tackle this thing. And I think that's where innovation comes from, is your passion and your understanding of what you're trying to build and who you're building it for. And just the inspiration that you have to go fix it and come up with something that's never been done before. That's where innovation comes from. Sometimes they say necessity is the mother of invention. And I think that's kind of where the best thinking and the best products and services come from. In fact, Renee, I think you've told me your story, and I think you're in a similar situation, are you not?
Yeah, so Gentreo, we do online estate planning, but we do it a little bit differently because it hasn't been changed in 100 years. My sister and I were sitting with our parents who had to pay $10,000 to do estate planning. And we both walked out of the office and thought, oh my gosh, someone has to do this differently. And then about 30 seconds later, we're like, okay, we can do this differently, because we had to involve family, right? And you need a whole bunch of platforms. It's not one and done, but you're exactly right. And then of course you have to have a nice husband like I do, that when you tell him you're giving up your nice career and you're going to go not make a salary and put all your savings into things. Yeah, all those things you're talking about, the passion, if you don't have that, you're not going to be successful. So.
Yeah, and this is, and it's not just, that you need to have that passion to convince investors or to hire people. Typically, when you're starting out, your investors are your friends and family, and they know you better than anybody. And so I think it's that genuine enthusiasm that you have for what you're going to go do and just, change the world and fix this thing and make it amazing. That's what gets people sort of swept up in your vision and on your bandwagon. And that's true in sort of all aspects of the people that you deal with through your journey to bringing this to market.
Oh, I think that's terrific advice. And I know it's helped us quite a bit too, because you have to really believe in what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we live in a really busy world, right? So even if you are really excited and motivated, what advice can you give our founders and everybody on the call for that? How are you going to promote these companies, right? Like, how can we get the word out about what all we're doing? It's not just the excitement, changing lives, but how do we let everyone know how to help all of us on the call?
Yeah, especially if you're just starting out, you probably don't have a huge budget for doing like user acquisition or advertising or things like that. So I found in my experience that the best way to get the word out is through PR or through social. And as you are all a cohort here as part of a portfolio with Breakaway, or you might have been part of an accelerator, or you might come to something like our entrepreneur camp, I would encourage you to partner with the other people that you're meeting in these environments. By definition, usually if you're in a portfolio or you're in some kind of accelerator, there won't be a lot of overlap between all of the companies involved, because it doesn't make sense to have 3 people doing the same thing. So that means that you're not really competing with each other. So you should cooperate with each other. So when any of you has some kind of win, like you've just secured some funding, or you just shipped a new version of your product, or you've made a great hire, everybody in your network should be telling that news so that you can kind of amplify what you're doing. And you'd be surprised, maybe in something that's an unrelated industry, the reaction you might get or a connection you might make to somebody. There's sort of that 6 degrees of separation that you'll be surprised where things come from when you start to get the word out, maybe among channels that you wouldn't normally have thought about. So that's probably my number one tip for people for getting the news out, especially when you don't have a very big budget.
Yeah. Okay. I'll give a kudos to Chris, because sometimes Chris puts us on calls together and says, "Hey guys, you will now work together."
Yeah.
So kudos to
And
Chris on that one.
it's a great
And then
idea.
about, we'd mentioned social graph, amplifying your voice. Can you tell us more about what we were talking about in that regard? So
In
from
what
a
way?
social
Sorry?
graph, just around who you know and
Yeah. So, if somebody in, Chris's portfolio, any one of you has a big breakthrough or some big news, then you should get everybody to be tweeting it, putting it on LinkedIn, giving, maybe they have some advice on how to better tell the story. But I think working with each other to really get that out there and amplify it, because you might have a few thousand followers or people that you would be in contact with. But if you multiply it by, say, 20 different companies, that's not another order of magnitude of people that you're going to reach. And like I said, the connections you'll get out of that can be surprising and really valuable sometimes.
yeah. And I think one of the things when we were talking is it's not hope. You actually have to follow up with people, right? You
Yeah.
have to actually
Yes.
encourage people. You can't just say, "I tweeted something, ta-da, I'm here." It's really making sure that you engage in the relationships, make them ongoing, and then help those folks as well, so that they know that, you're returning the networking
It's
effect.
a little bit of a pay it forward sometimes, but
Yeah.
you kind of have to trust in each other, that it will come back in spades when you're going to need their help if you've helped them. And sometimes that's not. It sounds a bit homespun maybe. But when you're scrappy and you're just starting out, these are some of the things that can really pay off in the long run. And the connections that you make with these folks as they go through, into their next company or into whatever it is they're going to do. Maybe they decide to join a big company. Those connections are valuable, really, really valuable. I mean, I think you're only 2 phone calls away from anybody in Silicon Valley if you know somebody, because they'll have known somebody that maybe used to work with them and now they've gone off somewhere else. And being able to kind of tap in on that network when you need a leg up is extremely valuable. So establishing those relationships and kind of keeping them current is really important.
Oh, I think that's fantastic. And I think with the Breakaway Growth guys working with all of us not in Silicon Valley, it's been one of those things where it's been fantastic for us to have Chris and that network there, so we can tap into that whenever we need that, but appreciating that we're outside of that network and we have terrific ecosystems around us that we try to use. So it's been, I think, for us, at least from Gentreo, it's been fantastic. Okay,
Well,
so we're, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and as I'm thinking about this out loud, Silicon Valley isn't a place anymore. It's people, right? Chris is at his lake place up in Ontario, and I'm on Vancouver Island right now. So I think one of the benefits of this having to be sheltered in place and being dispersed is that you don't really have to be in the valley anymore, but you still need to have those relationships and make those connections. So I think we're going to be a little bit less biased that you're not based in the valley. So I think this is actually probably a big bonus for people who are starting these companies elsewhere.
Oh, that's great. And Shaan told us she has a bear outside her window, so she's we're gonna make sure.
Occasionally, yes.
Yeah. So, okay, so we have about a minute and a half left. So any closing
Yeah.
thoughts you want to leave us with during this crazy time that we're living through, and share with
Yeah.
us?
Yeah, I think the one piece of advice that someone encouraged me to do, and I found it to be incredibly valuable, is to just reach out to your team. So I have individual contributors on my team that report to someone or report to a couple people before they get to me. But I've made a point occasionally of calling everybody on the team and just checking in with them, kind of a gut check, retina check, like, how are you doing? Both from a professional point of view, but also a personal point of view. And what I found is that if you specifically give people permission, if you will, to focus on things that are outside of work, that you can acknowledge that are as important, to make sure that they have balance and that they're taking care of their family, they're taking care of themselves, they're staying healthy, they're staying happy. And if you're at a company that has benefits that might be able to assist them, making sure that you remind them of them and kind of getting them in touch with that. So that would be my advice during this time.
I think that's great advice. And then you saw earlier that Bob Posen, who's with us today, he wrote a
Yes.
book called Remote Inc. And I think you guys would, I've gotten to see an early copy, and I think you'd wildly agree on the advice you just offered us around making sure that, everyone does those check-ins, and, it's a tough time. So how do we help everyone be successful, and that'll make the companies successful too. So
I'm looking
no,
forward to reading it.
yeah, no, so, okay, so thank you. That's great. So Chris, I'm going to turn it back over to you, but I have to tell you, like, getting to know you has been wonderful, and the advice is something that I think all of us can apply as soon as we hang up. So thank you very much.
Thank
So.
you. My pleasure.
Thanks, Shaan. And it's a showcase, so I'm going to do something that's really unnatural for everybody on this call, is I'm going to talk about how awesome they are. So what you might not know is Shaan was so early at Apple. She's the one who launched the App Store. She's just been so amazing to so many entrepreneurs for so many years and making a huge impact. So really appreciate her taking some time with us. And I'm going to talk about just 5 of our awesome founders today. And they're going to get 5 minutes each to give you a taste of awesome. You're not going to get the whole story, but a taste of awesome. And the cool thing about all 5 of them, echoing Shaan's point, is they're all animated about this problem that they just could not shake for the life of them. And we're really pleased to be partners with them. So with that, I'm going to start the showcase, and back to Renee and the story of what she did for her parents we've talked about, but just to do something she won't do, they grew, so this is public information that I'm going to use, 233%, just cranking through. So Renee, tell us a little bit about Gentreo.
Yep. So we do online estate planning, so that you can protect everything you've worked for across your lifetime. But we take a new approach to it. So it's not one and done documents. It's really about making sure that you have all the tools in one place to, involve your whole family and across generations. That's why Gentreo means 3 generations. So for me, I have I have aging parents. I have a father with Alzheimer's. He's had 7 strokes. I'm always trying to help my mom, but I also have a 9-year-old son. So it's all these different life inflection points around what do you need to be prepared so that you can make it through those life to make good decisions, whether, it's those legal or some of the financial ones. And so some of the things that we've done, we've built terrific partnerships. We just signed a deal today, taking us to 200,000 customers today here in Boston. Yep, thank you. And it's with a financial provider that they identified the needs too, that, not only it's not just the wealthy who need estate planning, it's all of us, right? And so whether it's healthcare proxies, powers of attorneys, but being able just to click a few buttons and say, I need help, I need that medication list, I need that healthcare proxy. So putting it all together in one spot. So we're going out to raise our Series A soon. So anyone who would be interested in helping us with that, it would be wonderful, because now I'll just be honest, with almost about $500,000, we have built a fantastic application product, taken a new view, and we now have lots of customers and partners lined up that we need to go execute on. So that's why we'll be raising our Series A soon, so that we can go out and do that.
Awesome. Thanks, Renee. I'm jumping over to Sam and Listo. And again, just a shout out to Sam's awesome story as an immigrant to the United States. A lot of us are immigrants, but Sam's story was highlighted in Forbes recently. So Sam, tell us a little bit about Listo and serving the community that you are.
Chris and everyone, thank you for having me here today. Shaan, thank you for your advice. I very much connect with what you said about being passionate. I was fortunate enough to be at Apple for a few years as well. The company we started is no different from that. Growing up, it was very hard to make ends meet, despite the fact that my parents worked diligently every day. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that they didn't have access to credit, or there's a lack of transparency in the industry, in financial services in general. While we were at Stanford Graduate School of Business, we created an algorithm that accurately predicts creditworthiness to solve the access to responsible credit problem. That company went public back in September, so very proud of that. While it was fun to build that company, it was very capital intensive. We had to raise hundreds of millions of dollars, and the unit economics were very challenging. It required a lot of scale to make it work, because we built a vertically integrated lender. I'm proud to say that we built a company that has a much better, more capital efficient model with superior unit economics, and that company is called Listo, which translates to smart and ready in Spanish. The best way to think about this is sort of Shaan for the underserved market, right? So Listo is a platform that's driven by data and AI to provide and democratize access to responsible financial services for the 250 billion underserved market. Our technology enables deep customer profiles to drive engagement, predictable risk performance, and as well as retention, which ultimately leads to valuable, large lifetime values of the customers. As you can see from the slide here, our core product offerings center around 3 key aspirational pillars. The first of which is building credit with responsible credit building loans that are 7 to 10 times cheaper than the alternatives out in the market. Second, we protect our customers' hard-earned assets with affordable, transparent insurance, most notably auto and life insurance. And then we harness those thick risk profiles that we've built over time, along with the savings that our customers have garnered to help them achieve the American dream, i.e. Qualify for a home for the first time, or invest in a business or college savings accounts for their kids. It's a story that I personally relate to, one that I'm very proud of being a solution of. As you can see from the right here, a typical customer journey is one where we onboard a very underserved customer, somebody who traditionally doesn't have a thick or credit profile whatsoever. They have an emergency and they need money, right? We offer them a credit building loan, which over time helps them build a credit FICO score of the high 600s. While they're doing that, we introduce them to ways in which they can save for their insurance. Auto insurance being one of our largest products today. Life insurance is a recent product we launched. And then they harness those savings in that thick profile to all of a sudden be considered and qualify for that home mortgage that I described. It's because we are focused on an underserved customer and we do a really good job with retention. What you see is that when we onboard a customer, we retain that customer better than most in the industry, which allows us to grow our customer monthly recurring revenue over time without spending any additional money on acquisition, right? I think we got a call in as well.
More customers. One of the things I love about Listo and being partners with you, Sam, on this is the fact that you're serving customers that otherwise were being victimized by payday lenders. So it's just really cool, not only to help people out in the short term, but to really help them with their life goals and build the country better. So thank you for everything you're doing over at Listo.
Yeah, thank you. As a result of that, we also have some impact funds that have invested and hold us accountable to those metrics, right, that we need to show. So in essence, as I mentioned, Listo translates to smart and ready. So we're helping our customers be Listo, be smart when it comes to making their financial decisions, choices, because our algorithms guide them on making those smart decisions that are going to help them move up and to the right. So very proud of that. I'm really proud of the fact that we've achieved to date net promoter scores in the high 90s. As I said, customer leading retention and high lifetime values in an industry that's typically characterized by really poor, non-transparent customer service, with net promoter scores in the mid 30s. Right? We're out raising a round today, so any introductions there would be highly appreciated. We're also growing our platform, so introductions to financial institutions that we can integrate with would be highly appreciated, as well as any auto insurance carriers for that matter. Thank you for your time, and I'll hand it over to you, Chris.
Awesome, thanks, Sam. And Shaan, this is one of the companies where the founders working together is already happening. So Renee and Sam have been helping each other out, which is awesome to see. So next I want to, again, I'm going to showcase and be very proud of our friends over at Senso. They've just had a hell of a run this year. They did their pre-series A that was 100% oversubscribed. I think we talked about, since we talked last, they were selected as one of the top 20 companies and startups in Canada, and actually came in the top 5 and just landed a big relationship with TransUnion. So Saroop, congrats on all the progress with the team, and over to you.
So first off, thank you, Chris.
Hey, Saroop, I don't know if we can hear you. You're breaking up, bud.
to get rid of the sidebars.
I think your earbuds may have died on us. I don't know if I can hear you. While you're figuring that out, just in the spirit of time, I'm going to jump over to Ko, if that's all right, and then Saroop will come back to you. So Ko Kim, who is not only one of our founders, but as all of our founders are, also a guru who's been really instrumental on the platform. Ko's been leading a company called EvenPrime. There are some very, very cool things that are happening at EvenPrime, but she is in stealth right now, and I'm not allowed to talk about them, and it's killing me not to do that. But Ko, I'm going to turn it over to you, and we can talk about the cool things when we get together next quarter. But tell us a little bit about EvenPrime.
Yeah, so EvenPrime is a direct-to-consumer self-care brand for the men and women of the gaming generation. Started this a few years ago. And ultimately, I just have a belief that gaming is going to be the center of commerce, culture, and community, especially for the next generation of consumers. And so I'm positioning the company to basically be among some of the first that's really focused on building a set of brands. We're starting off with skincare first for that particular customer base. The way that we do our acquisition is I'm leveraging a lot of my experience from my gaming days. And so I'm using the gaming playbook for acquisition and retention. So we have a private community beta tester program where we work with our own users to develop products. That's among 1,000 people right now. So imagine getting feedback and chatting with 1,000 people at any time. It's a little crazy. These people really love skincare. So, and they really love gaming. So it's kind of really fascinating to see. And just to keep these shirts TLDR, yeah, I can't really say what's coming up. All I can say, it's a major partnership with a strategic, which I'm potentially really excited about. But the big thing that I can reveal is that we're actually going to be in a couple of big subscription boxes, specifically Ipsy, starting in January. And we have 3 different placements all of next year. And that's upwards of at least 300,000 people trying our products. So that's just one out of and then coming soon, we have another major game activation that I can't say for now, but we'll be able to reveal, or you're going to see it probably in a couple weeks coming soon. So that's it. Glad to be here. Thanks for sharing.
And then Ko actually was the one who introduced us to Jane and Jenna over at Harper Wilde. So gurus are also founders, and we keep track of that as well. You saw Ko on the leaderboard, which was also her idea, I might add, to have the leaderboard for all of our gurus. It's very cool. I'm just going to give a shout out for Jane. Thank you for joining us. She's also too modest to talk about what's on the screen here, but Forbes 30 under 30, top 100 female entrepreneurs, grew 300% last year, still cranking this year. Awesome company. They also have some things that I can't talk about yet, but hopefully next quarter we'll be able to chat about them. But Jane, thank you for joining us, and tell us a little bit about why you and Jenna started Harper Wilde.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. So Jenna and I started Harper Wilde when we were in business school together. We do not have a retail or bra background that naturally points us to selling bras for a living, but what we did realize was there was a huge paradigm shift underway within retail more broadly, and that a lot of commodity products were popping up with millennial-focused brands, an easier online experience, and kind of shaking up the industry that used to be run by one big conglomerate. So razor blades, mattresses, eyeglasses, socks, luggage. You can probably think of the companies that all formed around those, with Dollar Shave Club and Casper and Warby Parker. And we were learning about that general shift underway within retail, and recognized that there were all these commodity products out there, but there wasn't a bra company, and appreciating that half the population wears bras and it's a pretty necessary commodity, we questioned why that was the case, that there wasn't one of these companies for bras that was following the same trend of, an easier online experience, a consolidated, more curated option set at a lower price point. And we started to dig around into it again with without any intentions to ever start a bra company. So taking more of the approach of, there must be a good reason there isn't one out there today. Let's just go find whatever that is. Maybe the market isn't big enough. Maybe the margins aren't big enough. Maybe someone's already doing it in this way. And long story short, no one was, and it was compelling enough that we started to work on our own company. And it was a $14 billion industry in the US alone. Victoria's Secret at the time dominated it, and that was back in 2015 or 16. So pre-election, all the women's marches, Time's Up, Me Too movements, and the plummeting of Victoria's Secret stock. But we recognized that, just as millennial women, we really dreaded going into a Victoria's Secret store. That, picture of Giselle sprawled out as a 00 white woman in a corset lying on a bed just wasn't relatable and wasn't who our friends and colleagues and family members were. There was a time when, they really hit their prime, and that represented feminism and what was on the forefront of being revolutionary in that way, but they just hadn't kept up with the times. And it certainly isn't what feminism looks like today. So we launched the company about 3 years ago, and have just been growing it since. There's a lot of bra companies out there today. And the reason that and Third Love was out there, a lot of other competitors were out there at the time, why we felt like we had a position in the market that no one else did was because we understood the millennial woman better than any other company. Because we come from management consulting backgrounds, we're MBA nerds, we really got into the data behind the industry, and we ran hundreds of different surveys and focus groups to better understand why women, especially millennial women, really hated shopping for bras. And it wasn't what some other companies thought and approached it with, which was an innovative product. No woman said to us, "Hey, there isn't a bra out there for me. Please reinvent the way my boobs are held up." It was like, no, there's a ton of bras out there. Just finding it and the price point is just an awful experience. Can you please change that part of it? So we saw like Third Love reinventing the bra and keeping the price at $70, and said that's really not the approach we want to take. So yeah, since then it's been really exciting. I think I appreciate the words earlier that, those who are successful right now have been really thoughtful about leveraging the moment and pivoting. I think if I can be really frank, there's just so much luck right now in the last 9 minutes that COVID has been extremely unfair in how it's, treated different companies. And, DoorDash is doing great, and, maybe scooter companies aren't. And it's just kind of how the pieces fell for us the last 9 months. And I think we've just gotten really, really fortunate. We've always been extremely lean. We didn't have to cut anyone. We don't have any brick and mortar stores yet. We're a product that's still relevant right now. Underwear, you're not buying dresses for weddings or events, and even within lingerie, we looked at trends, and fancier, more expensive lingerie in a recession doesn't do well. Those basics do really well. So we've had to pivot in some ways, in that no one's buying strapless bras right now. They're buying lounge bras. But all things considered, we've really lucked out with how things have trended the last few months. And so now we're pushing ahead, and we're actually growing quite a bit. We've hired not a lot, we're only 8 people, but we hired 3. So relatively speaking, on a proportional level, that was a lot. We're raising some money and really expanding our product line over the next year or so. So yeah, Chris, I'll turn it back to you.
Thanks, Jane. And Jane's also like crazy modest, like flying around to Ecuador and making sure their products are, socially, manufactured the right way with the right products all through Asia. Like all the founders that have talked so far, like just the work ethic and the passion for the product. I know my daughters love the RBG bra too, and the Grab 'em by the ballots bra, I'm sure, also was a good seller over this last election cycle. So that was awesome. So I love that you're really driven by more than just the product. So I want to get back to Saroop. Hopefully we got you back on audio, and I'll let you finish us up. Still no audio. Maybe I'll try to do it for you in the spirit of time. So Saroop's going after a small industry. It's a $1 trillion mortgage industry in the United States. The first AI ML company that actually was built not because of technology, but to solve a problem. So he came out of the mortgage servicing market, saw that it was really pretty horrible experience for consumers, that it was really not working for banks. And Saroop, we might have you back. Thought I heard something.
Can you guys hear me?
Yay! Gotcha.
Perfect.
Go.
I think it was one of the settings. Sorry, guys. Really appreciate it. I'm glad I'm able to do this. Thank you, everyone, for the time. We're Senso. I'm Saroop Bharwani, the CEO, Toronto-based company, and very thankful to be a part of this network. Thank you, Chris, for the opportunity, and thank you to many of the gurus who have helped throughout the years. As Chris was mentioning, we're helping financial institutions retain their existing consumer base using predictive intelligence. A bit of a personal story on my end. I just finished switching my mortgage from one bank to another. It's not the first time I switched a credit product between banks, and every time it's just been extremely frustrating for me. I didn't want to have to do it, but my bank, for some reason, would never serve me at the right time on the right channel when I needed it. And when I realized this is a problem that many others had, I know, Chris, you just went through this experience as well. And having experience in the banking industry and understanding the why, and it's just been not enough access to data in this industry, we realized that we could solve it. So providing better experiences to consumers at the right time in the financial services industry to retain them, but also provide a better experience is exactly what we do. So as Chris mentioned, we partnered with a global credit provider, TransUnion, to create a signal called a Senso score, which basically predicts when consumers are going to be in the market for a refinance or a home purchase, so that teams internally can proactively generate offers and reach out to customers when they need it. I talk to people on a daily basis that have a similar problem, and the need for a Senso score to identify when people like me are switching so they can serve me better is just something I hear on a daily basis. So like Listo, NPS scores is something we're increasing on a daily basis. And our beachhead market is mortgages. And, in Canada, it's not as bad, but in US, the metric of retention is below 20%. And that's just because data is not used like it is in the tech world, where CAC LTV metrics are optimized on a daily basis. So we're bringing that mindset and methodology in a scalable way to the $11 trillion US mortgage industry. And with interest rates just plummeting since COVID, we've been lucky because refinances have skyrocketed, making our product extremely relevant at this time to servicers who don't have the data and technology to understand how to serve their customers. So it's been an exciting ride for us. Right now, we just raised capital in April. BreakawayGrowth led the round. And right now, we're just scaling the business, particularly in the US. So anyone with relationships with chief marketing officers or executives within our target market, so banks, regional banks in the US that have a mortgage book, and any guru knowledge on CRM systems like Salesforce and Adobe is something that's top of mind for us right now. So any help there would be greatly appreciated.
Awesome, Saroop. I'm glad we got you in, and congratulations again on having the round oversubscribed and the top 5, startup in Canada. Nice way to finish the year. So that just want to finish up, if I can, with one more shout out, and apologize that we didn't have enough time to questions. But Bob Posen, who's a guru, who's actually working with Saroop, currently at MIT, has written, I don't know, Bob, 7 or 8 books at least. He's got a new book coming out called Remote Inc., or some Remote Work, or Remote Inc., I think is the title. It's so stealthy that the internet thinks it's called Remote Work, which is where I got that screen grab. But Bob's written a lot on extreme productivity, and we're all trying to figure out how to make this environment work, and really thrilled that we're going to get a sneak peek of his book at the next Resilience call, January 12th, and having more of a conversation than we're able to have today. So apologize for the lack of interaction, just given the awesome founders we want to showcase. We couldn't do as much of that. But Bob, you want to talk a little bit about what we might have a conversation about in January.
Well, thanks, Chris. Yeah, Remote Inc. is a shorthand for we need to change in a very fundamental way how people who are working remotely think about themselves. We're encouraging them to think of themselves as if they own a small business and that they are the ones who control their time. And yes, they get objectives that are set by their employer, by their boss. Yes, they should try to get success metrics from their boss, but then they should have the freedom and autonomy to figure out how and when to do the work. That's a way to get the most productive people who are working remotely, and it's also a way to keep them more satisfied. That's the general conceptual framework. We then put together lots of practical suggestions on everything from how to manage your team, how to do online presentations, how to set up your home workplace, what sort of wardrobe you might have. And we look at a broad range of very practical issues. And at the end, we come up with what we call the Goldilocks plan, which is not too much remote work and not too little. And so that's the focus going forward. We think that people will want to be partly remote and partly in the office, and exactly how to design that so it's best for the employee and the employer. That's the holy grail that we try to address.
And we're really looking forward to that conversation in January. I think it's going to be very timely, given that we probably have another 12 months of at least of dealing with a COVID environment and trying to figure that out. So Bob, thanks for doing that with us, and excited for that conversation. So just to finish up, I want to say to Shaan, thank you very much for taking the time, not only today, but all the inspiration to all the entrepreneurs I've connected you with over the years and the support. I also want to thank all of our awesome founders, and a shout out to Dr. Rawlinson, who helped us put the Red Mask ride together for our frontline workers who are dealing with just horrific, unfortunately, dynamics. And you can see I think this is the Boston Hospital care package that we sent over there with Harper Wilde bras and EvenPrime, skin care and all the other fun things we could get to them. So please think about them and your families and your teams. Check in with us. And with that, I think we're going to wrap up on time, which is startling to me given everything we went through. But again, a shout out to just an amazing quarter. When we talked about a showcase, it was just really exciting to see the numbers back up the stories and the passion of all our founders. So thank you guys for everything you do. Enjoy the holidays with your families if we don't speak to you before. All right, thanks.